All right, welcome back. This is going to be a lot of videos. I'm just going to have to let y'all know in order to be better, you have to do better. In order to do better, you have to be better. And that means shooting content. Shoot content, people. Do your job. The FCC is trying to clamp down on people for even talking about the war. So, censorship and dictatorship is officially at our doorsteps. Thank you all for voting for Project 2025 and Trump. Thank you all for voting for censorship. Thank you. We desperately needed that because America needs a dictatorship. America needs a censorship bureau. America needs to be in a Nazi form of government. And that, if you can't tell, is sarcasm and satire. So, yeah, we're definitely in a shithole. And thanks to y'all, we are going to be in a crisis for the foreseeable future for America. It's cool. The FCC will take away all channels and everything. They're going to clamp down on everybody. And censorship has officially rolled into America. And people that were against it, I wonder how they're handling this. So let's not speak to, but see what Tucker Carlson has to say about what's going on with him. And let's go from there.
Nano Banana Pro is now on Artlist. Get Google's most up-to-date model.
So the other day, I found out that the CIA is preparing some kind of criminal referral against me, a crime report, to the Department of Justice on the basis of a supposed crime I committed. What's that crime? Well, talking to people in Iran before the war. They read my texts. So the crime under consideration apparently would be the Foreign Agent Act or something like that, acting as an agent of a foreign power. And I don't expect this to go anywhere. I'm not too worried about an actual criminal case against me for a bunch of reasons. One, I'm not an agent of a foreign power. Unlike a lot of people commenting on U.S. politics and global affairs, I have only one loyalty, and that's the United States, and have never acted against it. Its interests are the only interests I care about because I'm from here and I have a lot of kids. So that's not a concern. I've also never taken money from anybody. Don't need it, don't want it, and that's provable. And moreover, it's my job to talk to everybody all the time and try and figure out what's happening around the world. That's literally what I do for a living. And I'm not going to stop doing that, nor should I don't think. I'm also an American. I can talk to anybody. I have no secrets to divulge. So legally, I think the case is ludicrous, and I doubt it will even become a case. I'm bringing this up for a couple of reasons, though, and they're pretty obvious. One is that countries tend to become more authoritarian in wartime. It's just the nature of war. People are dying. The stakes are high. People's emotions have risen to a very high point, to a crescendo. And so there's much less tolerance for any kind of dissent in the homeland. The irony, of course, is the United States fights wars on behalf of freedom, but there's always less of it here in our country during war. So that's a widely recognized phenomenon, and it's likely to happen now too. Another point to make that is worth knowing is that the USIC, the intelligence agency, spy on Americans. Now, you probably knew that, and it's been revealed a lot, including by Julian Assange and Ed Snowden, both of whom are threatened with death for revealing it, but everyone knows. But it's probably a little more widespread than most people understand, and it's outrageous. There's no justification for your government, which you own, you're a shareholder in it, you pay for it, to be violating your privacy like this. But it happens all the time. And in fact, one of the reasons that CIA or people within CIA, just to be clear, it's a huge, sprawling, disconnected agency. What it does in a specific case doesn't represent what everybody in the building thinks, but there are some people who are mad at me for my views about Israel. And they have some latitude. And one of the reasons they pass on criminal complaints, in effect, to law enforcement is to justify warrants for spying on Americans. So that is an absolutely real thing. But the main reason they do it is to leak the existence of the investigation, such as it is, to the media, and then humiliate and terrify the subjects of this op. And that's, of course, happened to me repeatedly.
He's right. Every time there's a war, censorship and dictatorship and the authority of the executive branch, judicial branch, all the branches, all of branch shit becomes increasingly more powerful and pungent. In turn, and with me saying that is that they become very ludicrous with their power. Shout out to Ludacris, even though you suck too, bitch. Um, yeah, this is gonna get very bad, and to keep getting very bad. These people want America to fold. That's just what it is. So
Many times, including in famously 2021 when I was still at Fox News and trying to set up an interview with Vladimir Putin. And the NSA, I heard from someone there, had grabbed my text messages with an American citizen and had leaked them to news outlets. Those texts were basically my attempts to set up an interview with the foreign head of state, and they leaked them to the New York Times in order to stop the interview, which they successfully did, by the way. And they admitted that they were spying on me. This is not a fantasy. It actually happened. They did it again 2 years later. My second attempt to get a Putin interview, I managed to get it anyway, and they've done it since. And so when you get a call from a reporter who knows the contents of your texts, it's pretty clear something's going on. None of this, in my judgment, as of right now, is a huge threat to me. So I'm not making this video to complain about it or whine or ask you to send me money because I'm under attack. I'm saying it because it's true, and you should know what your own government is doing, and you should know what the stakes are. And you should know that a lot of what happens in this country that affects outcomes happens behind the scenes. Some of it is legal, some of it is not, including what I'm describing now. But it has an effect. And the intel agencies, again, not everyone in the intel agencies, because there are decent, hardworking Americans who work in the intel agencies are Americans, just like there are decent, hardworking Americans who work at the DMV. But there are also people with agendas and grudges and no sense of restraint who are happy to misuse the power they have, granted them by our elaborate secrecy laws, to hurt fellow Americans for ideological reasons. That is entirely real. That's the story of Russiagate. And it's likely that things like that will begin to happen at greater scale now. So you should just know that going forward. Thanks.
well, Tucker, they're doing this to white people. So all black journalists, you're getting bombed out of Baghdad, big time. Boop, 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 boop. They don't start killing black journalists. America don't give a fuck about a black person. So imagine they doing this to white people. Black people, you should be You should be ready. We're gonna find a lot of black journalists getting lynched, hung, all sorts of stuff. Because when America comes for black people, they come with destructive forces of pure evil. I know this because America had slavery. It's like, so, they're going to just do the most crazy and brazen stuff to black people. If they're doing crazy stuff to white people, you should know as a black journalist, it's going down. It's going down. It's going down. It's like really going down. Y'all are screwed, like royally screwed. I'm just going to do some reactions to it, and hopefully my phone doesn't get tapped. I will work for y'all. Just putting that out there. Just, I'm not getting, yeah. CIA and FBI have killed black people. Black journalists are the most brave people on the planet. Because at the drop of a dime, America can turn into what would you call it? A Jim Crow, neo-Nazi era type place at any moment. Any moment. Freedom of speech can be wiped off the playing field. You're literally one step away from being a slave in America. And that's through the prison system, the industrial complex, whatever you want to call it. You're one step away from being a slave. A legal slave at that. I mean, slavery was legal too back then, but yeah, man. Anyways, let's go to the Unturks. Their channel is going to be strike down. Trump will back out of housing affordability bill. Eviscerate Stephen Miller's defense of war of Iran. Only white people can start doing this. Tucker Carlson might soon be arrested. That's true. Lindsey Dunn threatens everyone's support for Israel hits a new low. Let's try this.
Dropsite News did a poll, an actual poll that's nationally representative, because they were curious to see how Americans were feeling about Donald Trump's decision to drag us into this war with Iran. Now, as we've been talking about on previous episodes of the show, multiple polls show that the war is incredibly unpopular already. But when it comes to ground troops, even among Republican voters, it is wildly unpopular. Now, with the Israelis, we know that this war is very popular because we're the ones paying for it. We're the ones who could potentially send our soldiers, our troops, to put boots on the ground. So I was listening to Gideon Levy, one of the most wonderful Israelis on the planet. Okay, he writes over at Haaretz, but he was on Piers Morgan's show today, and he was talking about not only the fact that all of these wars have made Israel less safe, but he was also talking about the fact that, the Jewish Israelis, 90% of them are in favor of the war in Iran. That's what he claimed. In the US, obviously, the numbers are reversed. And so the poll that DropSite did asked if Trump is acting on behalf of Americans or Israelis. And here's what they found 47% said that he is more responsive to the American people than to Israel. So less than half, 47% think that Trump is more responsive to Americans, and 46% said he was more responsive to Israel. Among independents, these are the kingmakers, these are the deciders in our elections, half, 50 to 45%, said that Trump prioritizes Israeli interests over Americans. Among Republicans, only 17% said the same because they're watching Fox News slop, but I'll continue. Democrats overwhelmingly held that view, 75% versus 17%. So interesting results from that poll. I just, for the Republicans, and I'm talking about normie Republican voters. I'm not trying to get on your ass about this, right? But I am curious. Have you sat down to really think this through?
No. They ain't sat down to think nothing through. White people who hate, it would be like 80 to 90% of white people that hate people, love wars, love decimation of people and land. Hell, they want me to get out of here. I would say more than the majority of white people really don't like anybody besides white people. And then they don't like the white people that like other people. And then they don't like the white people that are against their views. So it's a very, very weird, skewed outlook on life that they have. So no, they're not going to sit down and think about this. They're not going to care about this. Because why? It's going to attack their benefits of white supremacy. The benefits of white supremacy far outweigh. Hell, they don't care if. They don't care at all. They don't care at all. They really don't care at all. That's just what it is. If the world was burning, they would still want to help it burn. That's how psychotic majority of the white population in America is. They don't care if their dogs were burning. If it's against their ideology and that dog is a part of that, they want that dog to burn. They'll help it burn. They'll pour gasoline on it. That's just what it is. Sad to say, but really, that's just what it is.
Because if you think that Trump is doing this on behalf of Americans, that's what he's prioritizing. How does going to war with Iran help or benefit Americans? How does spending $1 to $2 billion a day on a war on behalf of Israel benefit the United States of America? How is that prioritizing the American people? And maybe you have an answer that I'm just not privy to, but I don't see it. I just don't.
So around half of the country thinks that we're doing this on behalf of Israel and also to distract from the Epstein files. So the Washington Post had an opinion article that was attacking Ro Khanna because Ro Khanna doesn't think we should give endless money to Israel. He's one of the very rare politicians who says it and means it. So
it's even worse than that, Cenk. They're upset at him because he pushed for the release of the Epstein files. Continue.
Yeah, and which, by the way, is of course telling on themselves. Why is
100%?
Why are Israeli supporters upset about the Epstein files being released? I don't see the Norwegians upset. I don't see the Bolivians upset. Are you telling on yourself? Okay, and then they said anyone who says that it's because of Epstein or calls it Operation Epstein's Fury is an anti-Semite, and they should be canceled and no one should talk to them. Like, oh, Ro Khanna should be dismissed and never be, no one should ever talk to him. No one should consider him a presidential candidate. He should be shunned in Washington for representing the American people. So wait a minute. If you think it's connected to Epstein, you're an disgusting anti-Semite filled with hatred in your heart, but that's 52% of Americans. So they just called a majority of Americans anti-Semites for being opposed to Epstein? And this disgusting war that's costing us $2 billion a day, let alone the 7 dead, the 150 injured, etc. No, you're never allowed to disagree with Israel. And if you do, anti-Semite.
That's true. You're anti-Semite if you don't agree with Israel. That's just what it is. They control and run the world. And so, with that being said, they control the U.S. government. You just have to accept it that you voted for a person that is. We would have voted for. Like, it is what it is. Also, if you're in the military, army, just know you don't really fight to protect American citizens. You're fighting for the interest of the rich or the Fourth Reich or the Antichrist, like, or Armageddon. What you're being told, like. You should know that you are not fighting for the protection of your loved ones. It is for the rich. It is for people that want to plan world domination. That's it. And that's fine. Accept it, agree with it, and move on. You want your Hellcat, you want your benefits. Once you understand that and accept it, you can sleep better at night, knowing that you slaughtered people and did horrible things in the name of another entity. It's really fine. I'm not mad at people for doing it. It's part of the game. And you never bittered in the program. That's for sure. You're never, ever, 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 ever bittered in the program.
They say they're so disgusting. And then they celebrate the murders of all of these Muslims in the region. Oh, they're all terrorists. Kill them all, they're all terrorists. They say. Mainstream media disgust me. Okay, so by the way, we also did our own poll. The reason why Dropsite and Zateo and us have to do these polls, which are expensive, and thank you guys, you financed our poll, and their audience financed their poll, because mainstream media is like, oh no, we're not gonna ask anything that might hurt Israel. No way. Asking the question of whether this war is for Israel, that question is anti-Semitic. All Americans are anti-Semites. They yell at us. They yell at us. And then they wonder why they lost credibility. Well, I don't understand why American people aren't forced to listen to the objective traditional media when we call them all bigots and racists who should hand over their wallets and their sons and daughters for Israel. And if they don't, we're gonna try to ruin their lives. All right, so our poll asked, lately there's been a debate about America's relationship with Israel. Some say the U.S. should continue to provide financial support for Israel. Others say the U.S. doesn't owe Israel any money, even if it isn't exactly right. Which of the following is closer to your view? The U.S. should continue to provide financial support for Israel, a solid 30%. The U.S. doesn't owe Israel any more money, 49%, not sure, 21%. So only 30%.
The 21% are people that are uneducated and can't read. That's just what it is. The 30% are people that are uneducated and can barely read. And then the 49% are ones that can read in multiple tiers and levels and understand in multiple tiers and levels. But those other two polarizing numbers are people that can't read and don't know what's going on. It's very bad. America's getting dumber and dumber, and that's by design. Yeah, it's getting bad. It is getting bad, brother. Prayers to everyone. Hope y'all survive this. Who would have known that we would be presented with the Fourth Reich? Or Third Reich? Which one is it? Was the third? Yeah, so Fourth Reich. We're being presented with the Fourth Reich in a very different way. It's like it's Disney Marvel's alternate Avengers. It's incredible. Very incredible. I'm not gonna lie, this is an incredible time to be alive and present, cognitive, and understanding that we are cooked. Like deep fried, slap batter on your butt, cooked. And it's only getting more cooked, which is crazy. As you know, I always gotta take a screenshot so I can capture my thumbnails. Thank you guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. Sorry for the very, 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 very dark video this is, but yeah, we're cooked. Stick a fork in us. Put us in the Barbie, baby. Like, comment, and subscribe.